Hey there. Tonight we're talking about why you wouldn't last a day in the scorching pottery workshops of ancient Mesopotamia in 2100 BCE, where a young potter named Kale discovers that true abundance comes not from accumulating clay vessels, but from mastering the sacred art of transformation that turns humble earth into vessels of beauty and utility that create value for entire civilizations. Before you drift off, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if this kind of transformative deep sleep hypnosis speaks to you. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and how many days in a row you've been on this manifestation journey. I love seeing how committed this community is becoming. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let your mind absorb abundance. You wouldn't last a day in the ancient Mesopotamian pottery workshops of 2100 BCE, where the blazing desert sun beats down mercilessly on craftsmen who work beside kilns that reach temperatures hot enough to melt copper, where every piece of clay must be shaped with perfect precision because a single flaw could cause vessels to crack during firing and destroy weeks of careful work, where the social pressure is overwhelming because entire families depend on potters to create the storage jars, cooking vessels, and ceremonial objects that make civilized life possible in the harsh environment between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The physical demands alone would break your modern sensibilities within hours. The endless kneading of clay that builds the strength needed for throwing massive storage jars. The precise timing required to monitor multiple kilns simultaneously while maintaining optimal firing temperatures through careful management of fuel and airflow. The mental concentration necessary for creating vessels that must hold precious water, grain, and oil without leaking, because storage failures during the dry season could mean starvation for entire households who depend on pottery for preserving the resources that enable survival in one of humanity's first great urban civilizations. As you settle into your comfortable bed tonight, feeling the soft fabric against your skin and hearing the gentle crackle of the fire that creates such a peaceful atmosphere for learning and growth, imagine stepping back through time to witness a world where pottery represented the foundation technology that enabled human civilization to flourish in ways that would have been impossible without reliable vessels for storing food, water, and the countless other materials that urban communities require for maintaining complex societies, where specialization and trade create prosperity that extends far beyond basic survival to encompass art, learning, and cultural achievements that still inspire wonder today. You're about to enter a story that will carry you through the restful hours of sleep while your deeper mind absorbs the timeless principles of transformation and value creation that Kale learned during those long summer days in the pottery quarter of ancient Ur, where master craftsmen guarded secrets of clay preparation, firing techniques, and glazing formulations that had been developed and refined through generations of careful experimentation and accumulated wisdom about how earth and fire could be combined to create objects of both practical utility and breathtaking beauty that served the needs of everyone from humble farmers to powerful temple priests who commissioned ceremonial vessels worthy of their sacred rituals. Feel yourself beginning to relax as we journey back to a time when wealth was measured not in accumulated possessions, but in the mastery of transformative processes that could turn raw materials into finished products that solved real problems and enhanced the quality of life for entire communities. When prosperity flowed to those who understood that true value comes from patient application of skill and knowledge to create things that others genuinely need and appreciate enough to exchange their own valuable resources to obtain, and when abundance consciousness meant recognizing that the greatest fortunes are built by mastering the fundamental processes of transformation that enable raw potential to become realized value through the application of heat, pressure, time, and conscious intention, guided by accumulated wisdom and technical expertise. The summer evening air in ancient Mesopotamia carries the rich scents of river clay, wood smoke from the firing kilns, and the complex aromas of the glazes and pigments that master potters use to create decorative finishes that transform functional vessels into objects of art that reflect the sophisticated aesthetic sensibilities of one of humanity's first great civilizations. This is a world where every economic transaction carries profound significance because the difference between adequate pottery and superior craftsmanship can literally determine whether families prosper or suffer through the harsh, dry seasons when proper storage becomes a matter of life and death, where social status is intimately connected to the quality of vessels that people use for eating, drinking, and ceremonial purposes, and where the reputation of individual potters spreads throughout trading networks that connect Mesopotamian cities to distant lands, where superior craftsmanship commands premium prices from customers who understand the value of vessels that combine functional excellence with artistic beauty in ways that enhance both practical utility and social prestige. The pottery workshops represent far more than simple manufacturing facilities. They serve as centers of technological innovation, where master craftsmen continuously experiment with new clay formulations, firing techniques, and decorative approaches that advance the state of the art, while training apprentices who will carry these traditions forward to future generations, while adding their own innovations and improvements to the accumulated knowledge base that enables continuous advancement in both technical capabilities and artistic achievement. As you allow your breathing to slow naturally, while your mind opens to receive these profound lessons about the relationship between transformation and prosperity, you might begin to recognize how these same principles continue to operate in your modern world, where true abundance still flows most readily to those who master processes of transformation that convert raw materials or basic services into finished products or enhanced experiences that others value highly enough to exchange their resources to obtain, who understand that lasting success comes from developing capabilities that enable consistent creation of superior value rather than simply competing on price or convenience, and who recognize that the highest levels of prosperity are achieved by those who help others transform their own circumstances and capabilities in ways that enable them to achieve results they could never accomplish without access to superior tools, knowledge, and expertise that enhance their ability to create value and achieve their own important objectives. The summer morning sun rises over the pottery quarter of ancient Ur, casting long shadows across the working courtyards where dozens of skilled craftsmen are already deep into their daily routines of clay preparation, vessel forming, and kiln management that will continue throughout the blazing heat of the day until the blessed relief of evening finally allows them to rest their aching muscles and review the day's production of vessels that will serve customers throughout the vast trading networks that connect Mesopotamian civilization to distant lands where superior pottery commands respect and premium prices from discerning buyers who understand the difference between adequate craftsmanship and true excellence in both functional performance and artistic achievement. Kale stands at the edge of this organized chaos of creative activity, his heart pounding with excitement and overwhelming uncertainty as he observes master potters like Enlil the Wise, whose vessels have graced the tables of kings and temple altars for more than 3 decades without a single reported failure, demonstrate techniques for clay preparation that involve knowledge accumulated through generations of careful experimentation about how different types of earth must be combined, aged, and conditioned to create working materials that possess the exact combination of plasticity, strength, and firing characteristics required for creating vessels that will perform reliably under the demanding conditions of daily use in households, where pottery failures can have serious consequences for families who depend on proper storage and food preparation for their survival and prosperity. As you allow yourself to sink deeper into the comfortable support of your bed, feeling the soft warmth enveloping your body like a protective cocoon that shields you from all concerns and worries, while your mind becomes increasingly receptive to the profound lessons about transformation and prosperity that Cale is about to learn through his apprenticeship with master craftsmen, who understand that pottery represents far more than simple vessel making, but actually encompasses one of the fundamental technologies that enabled human civilization to develop beyond hunter-gatherer societies, to create the complex urban communities that could support specialized crafts, advanced learning, and the artistic achievements that still inspire wonder and admiration. Thousands of years after their creation, imagine the overwhelming sensory experience of the active pottery workshop, where the constant sound of hands working clay creates a rhythmic percussion that synchronizes with the heartbeat of an entire community, whose economic and cultural life depends on the reliable production of vessels that serve every aspect of daily existence, from the most mundane storage requirements to the most sacred ceremonial functions that connect earthly life to divine purposes and cosmic meanings. The air shimmers with purposeful activity as craftsmen work in coordinated teams, each individual contributing specialized skills to the collaborative effort of transforming raw clay into finished vessels that represent the integrated application of technical knowledge, artistic sensibility, and practical understanding of customer needs that enables master potters to create products that satisfy not just functional requirements, but also aesthetic desires and social expectations that determine whether vessels enhance their users' sense of prosperity, status, and connection to the cultural achievements that distinguish civilized life from mere survival in hostile natural environments. You wouldn't understand the crushing weight of responsibility that settles on Cale's shoulders as he realizes that his family's entire future prosperity depends on his ability to master not just the basic techniques of clay working, but the sophisticated understanding of materials, science, thermal dynamics, and aesthetic principles that enable master potters to create vessels that consistently meet the exacting standards expected by customers who can choose from many different craftsmen and who will quickly abandon any potter whose work proves inadequate under the demanding conditions of real-world use, where storage failures, serving mishaps, or ceremonial embarrassments can have serious social and economic consequences for everyone involved. The Mesopotamian economy offers no safety nets for those who fail to master their chosen crafts, to levels that enable them to compete successfully with established artisans whose reputations have been built through decades of consistent excellence. Unsuccessful potters don't simply lose customers or need to find alternative sources of income. They face social displacement from communities that depend on reliable access to superior pottery for maintaining the complex lifestyle that distinguishes urban civilization from rural subsistence, and their failures can result in real hardship for families whose economic security depends entirely on their ability to create vessels that customers value highly enough to pay prices that enable comfortable living, rather than mere survival at subsistence levels that offer no opportunities for advancement or prosperity beyond meeting basic needs for food, shelter, and protection from environmental dangers. Master Enlil moves through the pottery workshop with the quiet authority of someone whose reputation has been earned through thousands of successful firings and satisfied customers whose vessels have performed flawlessly under conditions ranging from daily household use to ceremonial applications, where failure would be not just embarrassing, but potentially sacrilegious, in a culture where religious observances require specific types of vessels for offerings, libations, and ritual purifications that connect human communities to divine powers and cosmic forces that determine prosperity, health, and social harmony. Kale watches in fascination as Enlil demonstrates the critical importance of clay selection and preparation, explaining how different types of earth possess distinct characteristics that must be understood and utilized appropriately to create vessels suited for different applications, from massive storage jars that must hold hundreds of gallons of grain or oil without developing cracks or leaks, to delicate serving vessels that must possess the refined elegance appropriate for wealthy households where social status is displayed through the quality and beauty of pottery, used for entertaining important guests and conducting business negotiations where impressions matter enormously for determining outcomes. This level of material knowledge represents far more than simple craft technique. It encompasses understanding of chemistry, physics, and engineering that enables master potters to predict with remarkable accuracy how different clay formulations will behave during forming, drying, and firing processes that transform plastic earth into ceramic materials with dramatically different properties that determine whether finished vessels will meet customer expectations for strength, durability, and aesthetic appeal. As you feel yourself relaxing more deeply, allowing these insights about the profound relationship between knowledge and craftsmanship to settle into your consciousness while your breathing becomes slower and more natural, you might begin to recognize how these same principles of technical mastery and customer focus continue to apply in your modern world, where true prosperity still flows most readily to those who develop deep understanding of their materials and processes, who take full responsibility for the quality and reliability of their work, and who recognize that lasting success requires not just technical competence, but the kind of commitment to excellence that builds trust with customers who depend on superior quality for achieving their own important goals and maintaining their own reputation and social standing. The evening pottery workshop reveals layers of complexity that Kale had never previously imagined, as he observes how master craftsmen coordinate their individual specialties to create production systems that can reliably produce vessels that meet the diverse requirements of customers, ranging from humble farmers who need basic storage containers to wealthy merchants who commission elaborate decorated pieces that display their prosperity and cultural sophistication, and even temple priests who require ceremonial vessels that must meet exacting specifications for purity, proportions, and decorative symbolism that reflects religious beliefs and cosmic principles that govern spiritual practices and community rituals. Master Shamash, whose innovative glazing techniques have created decorative effects that rival the finest metalwork for visual impact, while providing practical benefits that enhance vessel performance and longevity, demonstrates how artistic innovation can create competitive advantages that enable superior pricing while providing genuine value to customers who appreciate beauty as well as utility in the objects they use for daily life and special occasions. This systematic approach to innovation reveals that Mesopotamian pottery involves far more than simply following traditional patterns passed down through generations. The most successful potters continuously experiment with new techniques, carefully test modifications under controlled conditions, and systematically incorporate improvements that enhance both functional performance and aesthetic appeal, while maintaining the proven reliability that makes their vessels trusted by experienced buyers who understand the difference between experimental approaches that might fail and proven innovations that actually improve results. Kale begins to understand that this balance between innovation and tradition requires deep understanding of why traditional techniques work, what specific problems they solve, and how modifications might affect the complex relationships between clay composition, forming methods, drying conditions, firing temperatures, and finishing treatments that must work together harmoniously to create vessels capable of meeting customer expectations for both immediate performance and long-term durability under various conditions of use and environmental exposure. As Cale watches Master Shamash explain the reasoning behind a particular glazing formulation that provides both decorative beauty and practical benefits, such as improved water resistance and easier cleaning, he realizes that successful pottery requires not just skilled hands, but analytical thinking that can understand complex chemical and physical relationships, anticipate potential problems before they occur, and develop solutions that address multiple requirements simultaneously without compromising the overall quality and performance of finished vessels. This level of systematic thinking about complex technical challenges represents a form of intelligence that goes far beyond simple craft knowledge to encompass the kind of scientific reasoning that enables human beings to develop technologies and techniques that extend their capabilities far beyond what would be possible using only trial and error approaches or simple imitation of existing methods without understanding the underlying principles that make them effective. The sophisticated fuel management and kiln operation that characterizes successful pottery production reveals another dimension of the technical knowledge required for creating vessels that consistently meet quality standards while maintaining production efficiency that enables competitive pricing without sacrificing the profit margins necessary for supporting families and investing in equipment improvements and capability development that enable continued advancement in both technical capabilities and market position. Master Ninhursag demonstrates techniques for calculating fuel requirements, managing firing temperatures throughout complex heating cycles, and monitoring atmospheric conditions within kilns to ensure optimal reduction or oxidation environments that bring out desired colors and surface effects while preventing the defects that can destroy entire kiln loads and result in devastating financial losses for potters who must absorb the costs of failed firings while still meeting customer delivery commitments that determine whether they maintain their reputation and market relationships. Cale observes that kiln management represents sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics, atmospheric chemistry, and materials science that enables craftsmen to control transformation processes with precision that seems almost magical when compared to the uncertainty and waste that characterizes amateur efforts to fire pottery without proper knowledge and equipment, demonstrating how mastery creates efficiency and reliability that enables sustainable business operations while providing consistent quality that builds customer loyalty and market reputation that justify premium pricing for superior products and services. This technical sophistication reveals principles of process control and quality management that enable human communities to achieve results far beyond what any individual could accomplish through random experimentation or casual application of inherited traditions without understanding their scientific basis and optimization potential. As you allow these insights about technical mastery, process control, and quality management to flow naturally into your consciousness, feeling your body becoming more relaxed and your mind more receptive to the deeper lessons about prosperity and value creation that Cale is discovering, you might recognize how these same principles continue to operate in your modern world, where the most successful enterprises depend on mastering complex processes and maintaining consistent quality standards that enable reliable delivery of superior value to customers who depend on predictable performance for achieving their own objectives and maintaining their own competitive position in markets where reputation and reliability determine long-term success more than short-term price competition or convenience factors that may seem important but don't create lasting competitive advantages. The summer evening continues to unfold with Cale discovering that successful pottery production involves far more than individual technical skills, encompassing sophisticated understanding of market requirements, customer psychology, and social dynamics that determine whether vessels succeed or fail in the complex economic and cultural environment of Mesopotamian civilization, where pottery serves not just functional needs, but also symbolic and aesthetic purposes that reflect social status, cultural values, and individual identity in ways that make vessel selection a significant decision that affects how people perceive themselves and how others perceive them in social and business relationships that determine opportunities for advancement and prosperity. Master Enlil demonstrates this principle as he explains how different design choices affect the perceived value and social appropriateness of vessels for various applications, from utilitarian storage containers that emphasize functionality and durability over aesthetic considerations, to serving pieces that must strike the right balance between practical performance and visual appeal that enhances the dining experience and reflects the host's cultural sophistication and economic success. This customer-focused approach to design and production represents a sophisticated form of value creation that goes far beyond simple vessel manufacture to encompass consulting, problem-solving, and relationship-building activities that create lasting competitive advantages while serving customers' complex needs for both functional performance and social appropriateness in ways that pure technical excellence alone cannot achieve. As you absorb this understanding about the multiple dimensions of value that successful craftsmen provide, feeling your breathing becomes slower and more rhythmic, while your mind opens to new possibilities for creating abundance in your own life, you might recognize how these same principles apply in modern contexts where the most prosperous individuals and organizations succeed, not just by creating technically excellent products or services, but by understanding and serving the full range of customer needs, including practical requirements, aesthetic preferences, and social considerations that affect satisfaction and loyalty in ways that determine whether business relationships thrive or merely survive in competitive environments. As the ancient summer evening deepens and the blazing heat of the Mesopotamian day begins to give way to the blessed relief of cooler temperatures that make detailed work possible again, Cale discovers that successful pottery requires fluency in what Master Enlil calls the language of earth, a sophisticated understanding of how different types of clay communicate their properties, potential, and limitations through subtle visual, tactile, and even auditory cues that experienced potters learn to read as naturally as you might read words on a page, but which requires years of patient observation, systematic experimentation, and accumulated wisdom to master completely enough to create vessels that consistently meet the exacting standards expected by customers who understand the difference between adequate pottery and superior craftsmanship that combines functional excellence with artistic beauty in ways that enhance both practical utility and aesthetic satisfaction. The ancient clay beds that provide the raw material for Mesopotamian pottery contain within their mineral composition and physical structure a complete geological history of sediment deposition, seasonal flooding, and chemical processes that created characteristics directly relevant to how different types of earth will perform when subjected to the complex sequence of forming, drying, and firing operations that transform plastic mud into ceramic vessels with properties that determine whether finished products will meet customer expectations for strength, durability, thermal performance, and visual appeal. As you settle more deeply into the comfortable embrace of your bed, feeling the soft warmth surrounding your body and the gentle crackling of the fire, creating such a peaceful backdrop for absorbing these profound lessons about transformation and prosperity that remain just as relevant in your modern world as they were in Cale's ancient workshop. Imagine his growing amazement as he realizes that every batch of clay tells a story that experienced potters can decipher with remarkable accuracy, reading the history of geological processes through careful examination of color variations, particle size distribution, plasticity characteristics, and dozens of other subtle indicators that reveal whether specific clay bodies will provide the working properties and firing behavior required for particular types of vessels that must perform reliably under conditions ranging from daily household use to ceremonial applications, where failure would be not just inconvenient, but potentially catastrophic for customers whose social standing and spiritual well-being depend on having access to pottery that meets their specific requirements for both functional performance and cultural appropriateness. This profound level of material knowledge represents far more than simple craft technique. It encompasses understanding of geology, chemistry, and physics that enables master potters to predict with remarkable accuracy how different clay formulations will behave during each stage of the production process, from initial forming through final firing, allowing them to select and prepare materials that will produce vessels with exactly the characteristics needed for specific applications, while avoiding the defects and failures that can destroy weeks of careful work and damage relationships with customers who depend on reliable delivery of superior quality pottery that meets their needs and expectations without compromise or disappointment. Master Enlil demonstrates this principle as he examines a shipment of clay from the riverbank deposits near Babylon, pointing out subtle variations in color and texture that indicate differences in mineral content and particle structure that will affect plasticity, drying behavior, and firing characteristics in ways that determine whether this particular clay will be suitable for large storage vessels that require exceptional strength and thermal shock resistance, or better suited for smaller decorative pieces where fine detail and surface finish are more important than raw structural performance under demanding conditions. You wouldn't immediately grasp the sophisticated quality control systems that Mesopotamian potters employ naturally, almost unconsciously, as they evaluate every batch of raw material that goes into their vessels, recognizing that the harsh environment of daily use provides unforgiving feedback about material selection and preparation techniques, where inferior clay bodies or inadequate processing result in failures that can't be hidden, ignored, or explained away, because customers will quickly discover any deficiencies and will just as quickly take their business to competitors who demonstrate more consistent reliability and superior performance. The economic incentives in ancient pottery create natural selection pressure that drives continuous improvement in both materials and techniques, because potters whose vessels fail lose not just their current customers, but their reputation within communities where information about quality and reliability travels quickly and accurately through networks of merchants, households, and institutions that share detailed knowledge about which craftsmen consistently produce vessels that perform as expected, and which ones create pottery that develops problems during extended use under normal conditions. As you allow your breathing to become slower and more natural, while these insights about quality control and reputation-based economics settle into your consciousness, you might recognize how these same dynamics continue to operate in your modern world, where true prosperity still flows most readily to those who consistently deliver superior quality that performs reliably under demanding conditions, who understand that their reputation represents their most valuable asset that must be protected through unwavering commitment to excellence, even when competitive pressures or short-term opportunities tempt them to compromise on the standards that have established their credibility with customers who depend on consistent performance for achieving their own important objectives and maintaining their own reputation and market position. The evening pottery workshop reveals another dimension of complexity that Cale hadn't previously understood. The sophisticated understanding of thermal dynamics and atmospheric chemistry that enables Mesopotamian potters to create firing conditions that optimize both functional properties and aesthetic effects, while maintaining the precise control necessary for achieving consistent results across large production runs that must meet delivery commitments to customers who cannot tolerate delays or quality variations that would affect their own business operations or social obligations. Master Shamash demonstrates how subtle changes in kiln atmosphere affect both the physical properties and visual appearance of finished vessels, explaining that reduction firing conditions that limit oxygen availability create different chemical reactions than oxidation firing, where ample air circulation enables complete combustion, and how these different atmospheric conditions must be coordinated with clay composition, firing temperature, and time cycles to achieve desired results without creating defects that would make vessels unsuitable for their intended applications. This systematic approach to process control reveals that Mesopotamian pottery involves far more than following traditional recipes. The most successful potters continuously analyze the relationship between cause and effect in their production processes, systematically test modifications to improve results, and carefully document their findings to build knowledge bases that enable them to achieve superior consistency while developing innovations that enhance both performance and appearance in ways that create competitive advantages and justify premium pricing for customers who value reliability and excellence over simple adequacy or low cost that may seem attractive initially, but proves inadequate when vessels must perform under demanding real-world conditions. Cale begins to understand that this analytical approach to production requires not just technical skill, but scientific thinking that can understand complex relationships between multiple variables, anticipate potential problems before they occur, and develop solutions that optimize overall results rather than simply addressing individual aspects of the production process without regard for how changes might affect other characteristics that contribute to customer satisfaction and long-term success. The sophisticated glazing and surface treatment techniques that complement vessel forming demonstrate another aspect of the integrated technical knowledge required for creating complete pottery that functions as coherent systems rather than collections of individual components that happen to be assembled together without proper understanding of how different elements interact to create overall performance characteristics that determine customer satisfaction and market success. Master Ninhursag explains how surface treatments must be matched to clay body characteristics to ensure proper adhesion and thermal expansion compatibility that prevents crazing, flaking, or other surface defects that would compromise both appearance and functionality, and how decorative techniques must be coordinated with firing schedules to achieve optimal color development and surface texture while maintaining the structural integrity that enables vessels to perform reliably under normal use conditions that may include thermal shock, mechanical stress, and chemical exposure from various contents and cleaning procedures. Cale observes that this systems thinking approach to pottery design reveals principles of integration and optimization that enable human beings to create products far more sophisticated than the sum of their individual components, demonstrating how conscious coordination of different technical specialties can produce results that seem almost magical when compared to what might be achieved through random assembly of even high-quality individual techniques without proper understanding of how they should work together to create superior overall performance that meets customer needs while providing the profit margins necessary for sustaining business operations and continued investment in capability development. This collaborative approach to complex technical challenges shows how prosperity flows naturally to those who understand that true value is created through intelligent coordination of diverse capabilities, rather than simply accumulating individual skills or resources without regard for how they can be integrated to solve important problems that customers face in their own efforts to achieve prosperity and success. As you allow these insights about systems thinking and integrated technical development to flow naturally into your consciousness, feeling your mind becoming more receptive and your body more completely relaxed, you might notice how your own understanding of value creation begins to encompass these more sophisticated approaches to problem solving that recognize how individual expertise becomes exponentially more valuable when combined intelligently with complementary knowledge and capabilities possessed by others who share common goals and commitment to excellence in serving customers whose success enables everyone involved in the value creation process to achieve their own prosperity objectives while contributing to the advancement of human capability and cultural achievement. The ancient evening continues to unfold, with Kale discovering that successful potters don't just create individual vessels, but participate in larger economic networks that span vast distances and connect Mesopotamian cities to trading opportunities extending from the Persian Gulf to the mountains of Anatolia, from the Mediterranean coast to the highland regions where different types of clay, minerals, and fuel sources create opportunities for specialized production that serves markets throughout the known world, where superior pottery commands respect and premium prices from customers who understand the value of vessels that combine functional excellence with artistic beauty in ways that enhance both practical utility and social prestige. Master Enlil demonstrates this principle as he explains how design decisions made during pottery production directly affect the success of trading expeditions that carry Mesopotamian vessels to distant markets where they compete with local products and imported goods from other regions, requiring pottery that not only meets functional requirements but also appeals to aesthetic sensibilities and cultural preferences that may be quite different from local tastes and expectations. This understanding of how craftsmanship enables customer success in broader contexts reveals that the most prosperous potters focus not just on creating technically excellent vessels, but on understanding and serving the complete range of requirements that determine whether their customers achieve their own objectives through the use of superior pottery that enhances their capability to conduct business, maintain social relationships, and participate in cultural activities that determine their own prosperity and standing within their communities. Kale realizes that this customer-focused approach to craftsmanship represents a fundamental principle of sustainable abundance that extends far beyond pottery to encompass any situation where value is created through providing products or services that enable others to achieve results they couldn't accomplish without access to superior quality, capability, or expertise that enhances their ability to create value and succeed in their own endeavors. As you absorb this understanding about the relationship between craftsmanship and customer success, feeling your breathing become slower and more rhythmic, while your mind opens to new insights about how prosperity flows through networks of mutual benefit and collaborative value creation, you might recognize how these same principles continue to operate in your modern world, where lasting abundance comes not from extracting maximum value from individual transactions, but from building relationships and capabilities that enable sustained success for everyone involved in the process of creating and exchanging value that serves genuine needs while advancing human capability. and cultural development. The sophisticated trade relationships and market development that support Mesopotamian pottery reveal another dimension of the business infrastructure required for creating vessels that meet the diverse requirements of customers ranging from local households to distant temples, from merchant caravans to royal palaces, where pottery must meet exacting standards for both functional performance and artistic achievement that reflects the cultural sophistication and economic power of one of humanity's first great civilizations. Master Shamash demonstrates techniques for understanding market requirements, developing customer relationships, and creating distribution channels that enable access to customers who value superior quality enough to pay premium prices that justify the investment in time, materials, and expertise required for creating pottery that consistently exceeds expectations and builds lasting customer loyalty based on performance rather than simply convenience or low cost that may seem attractive initially but proves inadequate when vessels must perform under demanding conditions. The evening pottery workshop also reveals how master craftsmen approach the crucial challenge of training apprentices and preserving technical knowledge that represents centuries of accumulated understanding about materials, techniques, and design principles that enable the creation of vessels capable of serving the complex requirements of advanced civilization while maintaining the production efficiency necessary for sustainable business operations that can support families and invest in continued capability development. Enlil explains how knowledge transfer requires not just demonstration of specific techniques, but development of understanding about underlying principles that enable apprentices to adapt their skills to new challenges and continue improving their capabilities throughout their careers. As market conditions change and new requirements emerge that demand innovative solutions based on solid foundations of proven craftsmanship principles and customer focus. This educational approach to skill development demonstrates how sustainable prosperity depends not just on individual excellence, but on the creation of knowledge systems and training programs that enable entire communities to maintain and improve their capabilities over time, creating competitive advantages that benefit everyone involved while ensuring that valuable technical knowledge is preserved and enhanced rather than lost through lack of systematic attention to knowledge transfer and capability development. As you allow these insights about education, knowledge preservation, and community development to settle into your consciousness, while feeling your body becoming more relaxed and your mind more open to new understanding, you might recognize how these same principles apply in your modern context, where long-term abundance depends on developing and sharing knowledge that enables others to achieve their own success, while contributing to the overall prosperity of communities and organizations that support individual growth and achievement through collaborative learning and mutual support. As the ancient summer evening transitions into the deeper twilight hours, when the oppressive heat of the Mesopotamian day finally begins to ease, and the pottery workshops can resume the detailed work that requires steady hands and clear thinking, Cale witnesses something that fundamentally transforms his understanding of how true mastery in pottery requires not just perfect execution of traditional techniques, but the profound wisdom to recognize that every piece of clay represents an opportunity for transformation that goes far beyond simple shape changing to encompass the miraculous process by which humble earth becomes vessels of beauty and utility that serve human needs while embodying cultural values and aesthetic principles that reflect the highest aspirations of civilized society. Master Enlil receives a commission from the High Temple of Marduk for a set of ceremonial vessels that must meet specifications more demanding than any pottery Cale has ever imagined, requiring not just technical perfection in forming and firing, but deep understanding of religious symbolism, mathematical proportions, and aesthetic principles that enable objects to serve not just practical functions, but spiritual purposes that connect earthly activities to cosmic forces and divine intentions that govern prosperity, harmony, and the proper relationship between human communities and the sacred powers that determine success and failure in all important endeavors. As you allow yourself to sink deeper into the comfortable support of your bed, feeling the gentle warmth surrounding your body and the peaceful crackling of the fire, creating the perfect atmosphere for absorbing these profound lessons about transformation and the deeper meanings of craftsmanship that remain just as relevant in your modern world as they were in Cale's ancient workshop. Imagine his growing excitement as he realizes that the most successful potters don't just make vessels. They participate in processes of transformation that reflect fundamental principles of creation itself, turning potential into reality through the application of heat, pressure, time, and conscious intention in ways that demonstrate how human consciousness can work in harmony with natural forces to create results that seem impossible when viewed from the perspective of ordinary thinking, but become natural and inevitable when approached with proper understanding of the principles that govern all successful creation and value generation. This approach to pottery as participation in cosmic processes of transformation demonstrates a fundamental principle of sustainable prosperity that Cale had never previously understood. Truly masterful work serves purposes larger than individual benefit, creating value that enhances not just immediate practical utility, but cultural development and spiritual advancement that benefit entire communities while reflecting the universal human aspiration to create beauty and meaning through skillful work that honors both material requirements and transcendent values. The evening pottery workshop reveals that transformation in ceramics requires sophisticated understanding of how modifications to traditional approaches might affect the complex interactions between clay composition, forming techniques, drying conditions, firing atmospheres, and finishing treatments that determine whether vessels achieve their highest potential or merely meet minimum functional requirements without expressing the beauty and excellence that distinguish truly masterful work from merely adequate craftsmanship that satisfies basic needs without inspiring appreciation or creating lasting value that justifies premium pricing and customer loyalty based on genuine excellence rather than simple convenience or low cost. Master Shamash demonstrates this principle as he explains his systematic approach to developing new glazing formulations that create visual effects never before achieved in Mesopotamian pottery, requiring careful experimentation with mineral combinations, firing temperatures, and atmospheric conditions that must be tested under controlled circumstances before being applied to important commissions where failure would be not just embarrassing, but potentially catastrophic for customer relationships and professional reputation that has been built through decades of consistent excellence and reliable performance. This methodical approach to innovation reveals that successful advancement requires not just creativity and technical skill, but scientific thinking that can analyze complex cause and effect relationships, predict potential consequences of changes before implementing them, and develop testing procedures that provide reliable information about how modifications will perform under real-world conditions before committing to approaches that could affect the safety and success of important projects. Cale begins to understand that this analytical approach to innovation represents a sophisticated form of risk management that enables craftsmen to pursue improvements while minimizing the chances of creating new problems that could compromise the proven reliability that forms the foundation of their reputation and customer relationships in markets where trust is earned through consistent performance over extended periods of time under challenging conditions that reveal character and competence with unforgiving clarity. You wouldn't immediately grasp the sophisticated experimental methodology that Mesopotamian potters employ naturally as they develop and test innovations that could improve performance while maintaining reliability, recognizing that the demanding environment of daily use provides the ultimate testing ground where theoretical improvements must prove their value under conditions that can't be fully simulated or predicted with complete accuracy, making careful experimental design essential for distinguishing between modifications that provide genuine improvements and changes that might seem beneficial under limited testing, but could prove problematic or even disastrous under the extreme conditions that pottery inevitably encounters during extended use in diverse applications, ranging from water storage to cooking to ceremonial purposes that each impose different requirements and stress patterns. The economic and social incentives in Mesopotamian communities create natural selection pressure that rewards genuine innovation while quickly eliminating approaches that compromise reliability or safety, because the consequences of pottery failures are immediate, visible, and impossible to conceal from communities where information about performance spreads rapidly through networks of merchants, households, and institutions that share detailed knowledge about which potters consistently produce superior results and which ones create vessels that develop problems during normal use. As you allow your breathing to become slower and more natural, while these insights about systematic innovation and evidence-based improvement settle into your consciousness, you might recognize how these same principles continue to operate in your modern world, where sustainable prosperity still flows most readily to those who can balance innovation with reliability, who understand that true competitive advantage comes from systematic improvement rather than random experimentation, and who recognize that lasting success requires building customer trust through consistent performance while continuously developing new capabilities that enable them to serve evolving needs more effectively than competitors who either resist change or pursue innovation without adequate attention to maintaining the proven reliability that customers depend on for achieving their own important objectives and maintaining their own competitive position. The ancient evening progresses with Kale discovering how master potters use their understanding of broader cultural and technological trends to anticipate future requirements and begin developing solutions before market demands become obvious to competitors, creating first-mover advantages that enable them to capture premium pricing and preferred customer relationships when new opportunities emerge in response to changing social conditions, religious developments, or technological advances that create demand for vessels with different performance characteristics than traditional designs can provide efficiently. Master Ninhursag explains how her analysis of architectural trends and dining customs has led her to develop specialized vessel designs optimized for specific types of social activities, from intimate family meals that require pottery with particular thermal properties and serving characteristics, to elaborate banquets where visual presentation becomes as important as functional performance for creating the impression of prosperity and cultural sophistication that determines social standing and business relationships in communities where status is demonstrated through the quality and appropriateness of material objects used for entertaining and ceremonial purposes. This strategic approach to product development demonstrates that lasting prosperity requires not just technical excellence in current products, but market intelligence and strategic thinking that enable anticipation of future opportunities while developing the capabilities needed to serve emerging customer needs more effectively than competitors who react to changes after they become obvious to everyone in the industry. Cale observes that this forward-thinking approach requires continuous investment in research, development, and capability building, even when current products are performing successfully. Recognizing that sustainable competitive advantage comes from staying ahead of market evolution, rather than simply maintaining current market position through more efficient execution of established approaches that may become obsolete as conditions change and new requirements emerge that demand innovative solutions based on solid foundations of proven principles and customer understanding. As you absorb this understanding about strategic innovation and market anticipation, feeling your mind becoming more receptive and your body more completely relaxed, you might notice how your own awareness of opportunities begins to expand beyond immediate circumstances to encompass longer-term trends and emerging possibilities that could represent significant sources of value creation in your personal and professional life, if you develop the capabilities and relationships needed to serve evolving needs before they become obvious to everyone else in your field or industry. The evening pottery workshop reveals another dimension of transformation that Cale hadn't previously considered: the importance of what Master Enlil calls systematic knowledge integration, the disciplined process of combining insights from different sources, including customer feedback, material testing, production experience, and even observations of natural processes, to create comprehensive understanding that enables continuous improvement in both technical capabilities and business effectiveness through synthesis of information that might seem unrelated, but actually reveals patterns and principles that can be applied to enhance performance and create new opportunities for value creation. Master Enlil demonstrates how he maintains detailed records of clay characteristics, firing results, customer feedback, and environmental conditions for every batch of pottery his workshop produces, creating a comprehensive database of information that enables him to identify patterns, predict outcomes, and systematically improve his methods based on evidence rather than tradition or intuition alone. This systematic approach to knowledge management enables him to make better decisions about material selection, process optimization, and customer service, while providing the information base needed for training apprentices more effectively and developing innovations that address real performance requirements rather than pursuing changes that might seem interesting but don't actually improve customer outcomes in measurable ways that justify the time and resources required for implementation. Cale realizes that this disciplined approach to knowledge integration and analysis represents a crucial difference between craftsmen who achieve steady improvement over time versus those who repeat the same approaches year after year without systematic learning from experience or feedback from customers who use their products under real-world conditions. As you allow this understanding about systematic learning and knowledge management to flow naturally into your consciousness, feeling your breathing become slower and more rhythmic, while your mind opens to new insights about how expertise develops through conscious attention to feedback and systematic improvement, you might recognize how these same principles apply in your modern context, where sustained success requires not just initial competence, but continuous learning and improvement based on careful attention to results and systematic development of better approaches to serving customer needs and achieving superior outcomes. The sophisticated supply chain management that supports innovative pottery production reveals another aspect of the system's thinking required for creating vessels that incorporate the best available materials and components from sources throughout the Mesopotamian trading network, enabling potters to access specialized resources that might not be available locally, but which provide superior performance characteristics that justify the additional complexity and cost of sourcing materials from distant suppliers who maintain quality standards that meet the exacting requirements of master craftsmen. Master Shamash explains how his relationships with clay suppliers throughout the river valley, mineral dealers who provide glazing materials from mountain regions, and fuel suppliers who deliver specially prepared wood for firing, enable him to obtain materials that meet his exact specifications for different applications, creating supply chains that support innovation while maintaining the quality control necessary for building vessels that meet the demanding performance standards expected by experienced customers who understand the difference between adequate and exceptional construction quality. This network-based approach to resource access demonstrates how transformation often depends not just on individual creativity and technical skill, but on building relationships and systems that provide access to the best available materials, knowledge, and capabilities from multiple sources that can be integrated to create superior results than would be possible using only locally available resources or individual expertise without collaborative support from specialists in different aspects of the overall value creation process. Cale observes that this collaborative approach to innovation enables the achievement of results that would be impossible for any individual craftsman working alone, regardless of personal skill or dedication, demonstrating how sustainable prosperity depends on building networks and relationships that enable access to resources and capabilities beyond what any single person or organization can develop independently. The evening pottery workshop reveals how innovative potters use their understanding of changing customer requirements to develop new products and services that address emerging market needs while leveraging their existing capabilities and reputation to enter new market segments that provide opportunities for growth and diversification beyond traditional pottery activities. Enlil explains how his expertise in vessel design has led to opportunities for consulting with architects who want to incorporate pottery elements into building projects, advising other craftsmen who want to improve their techniques, and even participating in the planning of new trading expeditions, where his knowledge of storage requirements and container design provides valuable input for merchants who must make decisions about cargo capacity, protection systems, and transportation efficiency that will determine the economic viability of commercial ventures into distant markets. This expansion beyond core manufacturing activities demonstrates how transformation can create multiple revenue streams and market opportunities that leverage existing expertise while providing new sources of growth and prosperity that reduce dependence on any single product line or customer segment, creating business resilience and strategic flexibility that enable continued success even when market conditions change or competitive pressures increase in traditional areas of business activity. As you allow these insights about innovation, diversification, and business development to settle into your consciousness while feeling your body becoming more relaxed and your mind more open to new possibilities, you might recognize how these same principles apply in your modern world, where sustainable abundance often comes from building upon existing strengths to create new opportunities for value creation and service that enable continued growth and prosperity, even as markets evolve and competitive conditions change in ways that require adaptability and strategic thinking, rather than simple repetition of established approaches. As the ancient summer evening deepens into the magical hours when the blazing heat of the Mesopotamian day finally gives way to the blessed coolness that makes detailed work possible again, with the gentle sounds of pottery wheels and quiet conversations creating a rhythmic backdrop of purposeful activity that synchronizes with the natural rhythms of breath and heartbeat. Cale discovers that the most successful potters operate according to principles that go far deeper than technical craftsmanship or business strategy, encompassing a profound understanding of human nature, community dynamics, and the underlying forces that drive all economic activity throughout the interconnected networks of trade and cultural exchange that connect Mesopotamian cities to opportunities spanning from the cedar forests of Lebanon to the lapis lazuli mines of Afghanistan, where superior pottery serves not just practical functions, but also symbolic purposes that reflect cultural values and spiritual beliefs that determine how people understand themselves and their place in the larger cosmic order that governs prosperity, harmony, and the proper relationship between human effort and divine blessing. As you allow yourself to settle even more deeply into the comfortable embrace of your bed, feeling the soft warmth enveloping your body, while the gentle crackling of the fire creates the perfect atmosphere for absorbing these profound insights about the nature of lasting prosperity and the deeper currents that carry abundance to those who align themselves with natural principles of transformation and service to purposes larger than individual benefit alone. Imagine Kale's growing realization that these master potters don't just participate in the Mesopotamian economy, they help to shape and direct it through their decisions about what types of vessels to create, which innovations to pursue, and how to structure their workshops in ways that create opportunities not just for their own prosperity, but for entire communities of merchants, craftsmen, and customers whose success depends on having access to pottery that enables them to achieve results impossible with inferior vessels that lack the reliability, beauty, and cultural appropriateness necessary for successful participation in the complex social and economic activities that characterize advanced civilization. This deeper level of economic participation requires thinking beyond immediate customer requirements to consider how current decisions will influence future possibilities for entire communities, how individual innovations contribute to larger technological and cultural developments that benefit many people, and how local craftsmanship connects to broader patterns of cultural advancement and international trade that carry Mesopotamian influence and commercial relationships to distant lands, where superior pottery becomes a symbol of technological sophistication and cultural achievement that opens doors to trading opportunities and diplomatic relationships impossible to achieve without the foundation of recognized excellence in practical arts that demonstrate the advanced capabilities and refined aesthetic sensibilities of a mature civilization. The ancient pottery workshop reveals that true mastery of ceramics involves understanding the invisible networks of influence and information that connect Mesopotamian communities across vast distances, creating informal but highly effective systems for sharing technical knowledge, coordinating responses to common challenges, and identifying collaborative opportunities that benefit entire regions while simultaneously advancing individual business interests in ways that demonstrate how cooperation and competition can work together rather than against each other when approached with sufficient wisdom and strategic understanding. Master Enlil's workshop participates in one such network that spans the major pottery centers throughout Mesopotamia and beyond, enabling him to learn about innovations developed in distant cities, share his own discoveries with other master craftsmen, and coordinate with suppliers and customers across political and cultural boundaries that might seem insurmountable to people who lack the relationships and reputation necessary for conducting business based on trust and mutual respect, rather than formal contracts or legal enforcement mechanisms that may not exist or may be unreliable for regulating commercial relationships that span vast distances and multiple jurisdictions where political authority is complex and legal systems vary dramatically from region to region. Kale observes that participation in these networks requires not just technical competence, but also social skills, cultural sensitivity, and the kind of personal integrity that enables craftsmen from different backgrounds to trust each other with valuable information and significant commitments, despite never having formal legal recourse if agreements are violated or circumstances change unexpectedly in ways that make original arrangements difficult or impossible to fulfill according to original terms and expectations. As you absorb this understanding about the crucial importance of networks and relationships in creating sustainable abundance, feeling your breathing become slower and more rhythmic, while your mind opens to new possibilities for connection and collaboration in your own life, you might recognize how these same principles operate in your modern world, where success increasingly depends on your ability to build authentic relationships, contribute value to communities, and participate meaningfully in networks that create mutual benefit for all participants, rather than simply extracting maximum advantage for yourself without regard for the welfare and success of others who share common interests and complementary capabilities that could be combined to achieve results superior to what any individual could accomplish working alone, regardless of personal skill or dedication. The sophistication of Mesopotamian commercial networks becomes even more apparent as Kale learns that successful potters use their understanding of these broader patterns to create what Master Shamash calls systemic value, improvements and innovations that benefit entire communities, while simultaneously strengthening their own competitive positions in ways that create lasting advantages over craftsmen who focus solely on individual transactions and immediate profits without considering how their actions affect the overall health and prosperity of the economic and cultural ecosystem in which they operate and from which they derive their own success and reputation. Shamash's workshop succeeds not just because he creates superior vessels and maintains excellent customer relationships, but because he has systematically worked to improve the overall infrastructure that supports Mesopotamian pottery production, including developing standardized quality specifications that help customers make better purchasing decisions, creating training programs that improve the skills of craftsmen throughout the region, and establishing supply relationships that ensure reliable access to superior materials for all participants in the pottery trade, rather than hoarding access for his own exclusive benefit. This approach to creating systemic value demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how individual prosperity connects to community prosperity, recognizing that the most sustainable and satisfying forms of abundance come from contributing to systems that benefit many people, rather than simply extracting maximum value from existing arrangements without regard for their long-term viability or their impact on other participants in the commercial and cultural network. As Kale watches Shamash explain to a group of younger potters how certain improvements in regional pottery standards will benefit everyone involved in ceramics, while simultaneously strengthening Shamash's own business position by creating conditions that favor craftsmen who understand and implement these higher standards, he begins to understand that true abundance consciousness involves thinking beyond zero-sum competition to encompass positive-sum collaboration that creates more value for everyone, rather than simply redistributing existing value in ways that benefit some participants at the expense of others. The evening pottery workshop also reveals how master craftsmen use their understanding of deeper cultural and technological patterns to identify emerging opportunities that aren't yet obvious to their competitors, positioning themselves to benefit from changes that others won't recognize until market conditions have already shifted and first-mover advantages have been captured by those who understood the implications of early signals and trends that might have seemed insignificant or unrelated to immediate business concerns, but actually represented important indicators of fundamental changes in social customs, religious practices, or technological possibilities. Master Ninhursag's specialized knowledge of ceremonial vessel requirements exemplifies this principle as Kale learns that Ninhursag's investment in developing expertise for creating ritual pottery initially seemed like a narrow specialization with limited market potential, but has proven extremely valuable as religious reforms and temple construction projects have created increasing demand for vessels that meet exacting specifications for purity, proportion, and symbolic content that traditional pottery cannot provide without substantial modification and specialized knowledge. This ability to recognize emerging opportunities requires not just analytical intelligence, but also intuitive sensitivity to subtle changes in cultural values, religious practices, political conditions, and social customs that might seem unrelated to immediate pottery production, but could dramatically impact future market conditions for those perceptive enough to understand their implications and wise enough to position themselves appropriately before these changes become obvious to competitors, who then face the disadvantage of trying to develop specialized capabilities. After market demand has already been established, and early adopters have captured preferred customer relationships and premium pricing opportunities. As you allow this insight about opportunity recognition and strategic positioning to settle naturally into your consciousness, feeling your mind becoming more receptive and your body more completely relaxed, you might notice how your own awareness of possibilities begins to expand beyond obvious opportunities to encompass subtler signals and emerging trends that could represent significant sources of value creation in your personal and professional life if you develop the sensitivity and strategic thinking necessary for recognizing them before they become apparent to everyone else in your field or industry. The ancient evening continues with Kale discovering that the most prosperous potters don't just adapt to changing conditions, but actively work to create conditions that favor their particular strengths and business models, demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that goes far beyond reactive adjustment to encompass proactive influence over the cultural and economic environment in which they operate and from which they derive their income and reputation. Master Enlil's business illustrates this principle, as Kale learns that Enlil has systematically worked to educate his customers about quality differences that might not be immediately apparent but significantly affect vessel performance and longevity, establish industry standards that favor his production methods and quality control processes, and create customer expectations that make it difficult for competitors to succeed without matching his level of technical excellence and customer service, effectively raising the competitive bar in ways that benefit customers while strengthening his own market position and profit margins through demonstrated superiority rather than simple marketing claims or price competition. This approach to market creation and influence requires understanding not just what customers currently want, but what they could want if they understood possibilities they haven't yet considered, demonstrating that true entrepreneurial success often involves expanding markets rather than simply competing for existing demand through price reduction or minor product variations that don't fundamentally change the value proposition or customer experience. As Kale observes Enlil explaining to potential customers how superior clay preparation and firing techniques can improve vessel durability, reduce maintenance requirements, and provide better long-term value despite higher initial costs, he begins to understand that creating abundance often involves helping other people recognize and pursue their own prosperity, rather than simply capturing a larger share of existing wealth through more efficient competition or superior negotiation skills that don't create additional value for anyone involved in the transaction. The sophistication of this approach to market development becomes even more apparent as Kale realizes that Enlil isn't just selling pottery, but educating his customers about the relationship between construction quality and long-term satisfaction in ways that benefit everyone involved in the transaction while creating customer loyalty based on understanding and appreciation rather than simply habit or convenience. This educational approach requires significant investment of time and expertise, but it creates competitive advantages that can't be easily replicated by competitors who focus only on price or convenience without developing the knowledge and communication skills necessary for helping customers understand the full value of what they're purchasing and why superior quality justifies premium pricing that initially might seem expensive, but actually provides better value when total cost of ownership and performance capabilities are considered over the entire useful life of the vessels. As Cale absorbs these insights about market creation and customer education, feeling his understanding of value creation expanding to encompass these more sophisticated approaches to business development that go beyond simple product transactions to encompass consulting, education, and relationship building that provide ongoing value to customers while generating sustainable competitive advantages. He begins to recognize that the most successful craftsmen don't just make pottery, but create experiences and relationships that provide ongoing value to customers while generating sustainable prosperity based on mutual satisfaction and genuine value creation, rather than short-term profit maximization that might compromise long-term relationship quality and customer satisfaction. The evening pottery workshop reveals another dimension of commercial sophistication that Cale hadn't previously understood: the importance of what Master Shamash calls temporal arbitrage, the ability to recognize and take advantage of timing differences in how information, materials, and opportunities move through different markets and regions, creating profit opportunities based on understanding these timing differentials, rather than simply competing on quality or price in direct competition with other potters serving the same customers in the same markets at the same time. Shamash's success with specialized glazing techniques depends partially on his understanding of how mineral discoveries affect availability of coloring agents in different regions, how political events create demand for ceremonial vessels before these requirements become obvious to potters who focus only on traditional markets, and how seasonal patterns and religious calendars create predictable but temporally separated demand spikes that create opportunities for craftsmen who understand these patterns and position themselves appropriately to serve emerging needs that other potters either don't recognize or lack the capabilities to address effectively. This temporal approach to business strategy requires sophisticated understanding of how different markets operate, how information travels between regions, and how various factors affect supply and demand in ways that create temporary imbalances that can be extremely profitable for potters who recognize them early and position themselves to take advantage of these opportunities before they become obvious to competitors or before market forces eliminate the arbitrage potential through new entrants or price adjustments that restore competitive equilibrium. Cale realizes that this approach to business development represents a form of strategic intelligence that goes beyond simple market analysis to encompass understanding of complex systems, timing relationships, and information flows that create opportunities for those sophisticated enough to recognize and exploit them appropriately while providing genuine value to customers who benefit from having access to specialized capabilities when they need them most. As you allow this understanding about temporal arbitrage and strategic thinking to flow into your consciousness, feeling your mind expanding to encompass these more sophisticated approaches to opportunity recognition and value creation, you might notice how these same principles apply in your modern world, where information, products, and opportunities still move at different speeds through different markets and regions, creating similar arbitrage opportunities for those wise enough to recognize them and positioned appropriately to take advantage of them in ways that create value for all participants, rather than simply extracting profit from temporary market inefficiencies, without providing corresponding benefits to customers or communities that enable sustainable business relationships and long-term prosperity. As the ancient summer evening reaches its most peaceful and contemplative hours, when the last traces of the desert heat finally dissipate and the gentle coolness of night brings blessed relief that makes intricate work possible again, with the soft glow of oil lamps creating an almost sacred atmosphere where the deepest truths about craftsmanship and prosperity can be shared and absorbed by those ready to receive them, Cale experiences a profound transformation in his understanding of what true mastery means and how genuine abundance flows through the lives of those who align themselves with principles that transcend any particular craft or historical period, because they reflect fundamental laws of creation, transformation, and service that operate consistently throughout human history, regardless of technological developments, economic systems, or cultural contexts that might seem to change everything, but actually only affect the surface appearance of activities that remain essentially the same in their deeper structure and underlying dynamics. The master potters, who have become his teachers throughout this magical evening, don't simply possess superior technical skills or more extensive business knowledge than other craftsmen. They embody a way of thinking and being that attracts prosperity naturally, effortlessly, and sustainably, because they understand that true wealth flows not to those who grasp and accumulate for personal benefit alone, but to those who serve and transform raw potential into realized value in ways that benefit entire communities while simultaneously fulfilling their own deepest needs for meaningful work, financial security, and the profound satisfaction that comes from contributing something genuinely valuable to the ongoing development of human civilization and cultural achievement. As you allow yourself to sink into the deepest levels of relaxation and receptivity, feeling your body completely supported by the comfortable bed, while your mind opens fully to receive the profound wisdom that Cale is discovering in these final hours of his transformative experience. Imagine the warm golden light of the oil lamps creating an almost mystical atmosphere where ancient secrets of transformation and abundance can be transmitted from master to student in ways that transcend ordinary teaching, to become direct transmission of understanding about how consciousness itself participates in the creative processes that turn potential into reality through the application of attention, intention, skill, and service to purposes larger than individual benefit alone. Master Enlil's final lesson of the evening involves something he calls the sacred thread, the invisible but unbreakable connection that links all truly masterful craftsmen across time and space, creating a network of excellence that operates according to principles that transcend particular historical periods, specific technologies, or individual cultural contexts, because these principles reflect fundamental laws of creation and transformation that remain constant regardless of external circumstances or apparent limitations that might seem to constrain what individuals can accomplish through dedicated application of their talents and capabilities in service to worthy objectives. This sacred thread of mastery consciousness reveals itself through the way successful potters think about their relationship with clay, fire, water, and air, the four fundamental elements that must be harmonized to create pottery that serves not just practical requirements, but also higher purposes related to beauty, meaning, and the advancement of human consciousness and cultural development that benefits countless generations of people who will use and appreciate the results of excellence applied with wisdom and dedication to the ancient art of transformation. Kale watches in amazement as Master Enlil completes the final details on a magnificent ceremonial vessel that represents months of careful planning, skilled execution, and innovative problem-solving. But Enlil's attention focuses not on celebrating his technical achievement or calculating his profit, but on ensuring that every aspect of the vessel reflects the highest possible standards of craftsmanship that will enable it to serve its sacred function of connecting earthly activities to divine purposes through the beauty and perfection that inspire reverence and remind users of the cosmic principles that govern all successful creation and transformation in both material and spiritual dimensions of existence. Master Shamash demonstrates the same principle in his approach to training younger potters, spending considerable time not just teaching specific techniques, but helping apprentices understand the deeper principles that enable craftsmen to adapt their skills to new challenges and continue developing their capabilities throughout their careers. As conditions change and new requirements emerge that demand innovative solutions based on solid foundations of proven principles and deep understanding of the natural laws that govern all successful transformation processes. This generous sharing of valuable knowledge might seem counterproductive from a narrow competitive perspective, where information represents competitive advantage over potential rivals. But Kale begins to understand that Shamash's willingness to educate others actually strengthens his own position by raising the overall quality of pottery production in the region, creating a reputation for excellence that benefits everyone involved, while attracting the most challenging and rewarding projects that enable master craftsmen to continue developing their skills while earning the respect and compensation that reflects their contribution to community prosperity and cultural advancement. As you absorb this understanding about the interconnected nature of individual mastery and community excellence, feeling your breathing becomes slower and more natural, while your consciousness expands to encompass these profound insights about the true nature of craftsmanship and value creation. You might recognize how these same principles operate in your modern world, where the most successful individuals and organizations achieve lasting prosperity not by competing more aggressively against others, but by elevating standards and capabilities throughout their industries, not by hoarding knowledge and opportunities, but by creating and sharing them in ways that generate excellence for everyone involved in the process of continuous improvement and mutual advancement that benefits entire communities while enabling individual achievement of the highest levels of professional satisfaction and financial success that comes from serving purposes larger than personal benefit alone. The sacred thread of mastery consciousness that Kale discovers connects him across millennia to your own life and your own opportunities for developing excellence in whatever field or endeavor you choose to pursue with dedication and proper understanding of the principles that enable sustained achievement of superior results that serve both personal and broader community interests, while contributing to the ongoing advancement of human capability and cultural development. The ancient evening reveals another aspect of the sacred thread that Kale hadn't previously understood: the way that truly masterful potters approach their relationship with the fundamental elements, treating clay, fire, water, and air not as mere materials and tools to be manipulated according to predetermined plans, but as collaborators in a sacred process of transformation, where the inherent characteristics and spiritual essence of natural forces are understood, respected, and utilized in ways that bring out their highest potential, while achieving functional objectives that serve human needs and spiritual aspirations. Master Ninhursag demonstrates this principle as she selects clay for a new project, explaining how she attunes herself to the spiritual as well as physical properties of each batch. Understanding how its geological history and elemental composition affect not just its working characteristics and firing behavior, but also its capacity to hold and transmit the intentions and energies that the potter brings to the creative process through focused attention and conscious participation in the ancient art of transformation that connects human consciousness to cosmic principles of creation and manifestation. This collaborative approach to materials reveals a sophisticated understanding of how mastery involves not just technical control over processes and outcomes, but spiritual alignment with natural forces and cosmic principles that govern all successful creation and transformation in both material and metaphysical dimensions of reality. Cale realizes that this approach to pottery as sacred work represents a fundamental shift in consciousness that extends far beyond ceramics to encompass any situation where people work with natural or spiritual forces to create results that serve important purposes and reflect the highest possible standards of excellence and integrity in both technical execution and spiritual intention. As you allow this insight about sacred work and conscious collaboration with natural forces to settle into your consciousness, feeling your understanding of mastery expanding to encompass these more profound dimensions of creative work and value creation, you might recognize how these same principles apply in your own life, where sustainable success comes not from forcing outcomes through struggle and resistance, but from understanding and working with natural patterns and spiritual principles in ways that create results that seem effortless because they align with rather than oppose the deeper currents of creativity and manifestation that flow through all successful endeavors when approached with proper understanding and reverent attention. The evening pottery workshop concludes with Cale's complete transformation from someone who thought about pottery in terms of technical skills and economic competition to someone who understands mastery as a vehicle for spiritual development, community service, and participation in larger patterns of cosmic creativity that connect individual achievement to universal purposes related to the ongoing evolution of consciousness and the advancement of human capability to create beauty and meaning through skillful work that honors both material requirements and transcendent values. Master Enlil's final words capture the essence of this transformation as he explains that true mastery comes not from accumulating skills or achieving recognition, but from developing the capacity to serve as a conscious channel for creative forces that seek expression through human consciousness and capability, creating value that serves others while simultaneously fulfilling your own deepest need for meaningful work that contributes something genuinely valuable to the ongoing development of human civilization and the advancement of consciousness itself through the creation of beauty and utility that reflects the highest aspirations of embodied spiritual beings working in harmony with cosmic principles of creation and transformation. This understanding represents a fundamental shift from ego-based consciousness that sees mastery as a means of personal aggrandizement or competitive advantage over others, to service-based consciousness that recognizes mastery as a sacred responsibility to contribute the best possible work to endeavors that benefit many people while providing opportunities for spiritual growth and satisfaction that come from knowing that your efforts have made a positive difference in the world and contributed to the advancement of human capability and cosmic development through conscious participation in the universal processes of creation and manifestation that operate through individual consciousness when properly aligned with transcendent purposes and natural principles. Cale's transformation reflects changes that can occur in your own life as you absorb these timeless principles of sacred work and begin to apply them in your modern context. recognizing that the same consciousness that enabled ancient potters to create vessels of legendary beauty and utility continues to operate today for those who understand how to align themselves with principles of excellence, service, and conscious creativity that transcend particular technologies or economic systems, because they reflect fundamental aspects of spiritual development and the satisfaction that comes from meaningful work. As you feel yourself drifting toward peaceful sleep, your subconscious mind continues to absorb and integrate these profound lessons about the true nature of mastery, sacred work, and the creative thread that connects all people throughout history who have dedicated themselves to creating value that serves others while pursuing their own highest potential for skill development and spiritual growth through meaningful contribution to the advancement of human capability and cosmic evolution. The warm evening air carries Kale's final realization that mastery isn't something you achieve through competition or accumulation of credentials, but something you become as you develop the consciousness and capabilities that naturally attract opportunities for creating value while serving purposes larger than personal benefit alone. Recognizing that true satisfaction comes not from what you can get through your skills, but from what you can give through the conscious application of those skills in service to the sacred work of transformation that benefits others while providing opportunities for continued growth and spiritual development. This understanding transforms his relationship with his craft from one of anxiety about competition and concern about economic security to one of confidence and flow. Recognizing that excellence naturally attracts opportunities and that mastery creates its own abundance through the value it provides to others who appreciate and reward superior quality that enables them to achieve their own important objectives while participating in the larger patterns of cultural and spiritual development that connect individual success to cosmic purposes and universal principles of creation and manifestation. As you allow these final insights to settle into the deepest levels of your consciousness, feeling your body completely relaxed and your mind perfectly peaceful, you can trust that your subconscious will continue processing and integrating these powerful lessons throughout your sleep, enabling you to wake tomorrow with expanded awareness of your own capacity for developing mastery through sacred work, spiritual development, and the patient application of your unique talents in ways that benefit both yourself and others, while contributing to the ongoing advancement of human consciousness and cosmic evolution. The sacred thread of mastery consciousness that Kale discovered in the ancient pottery workshop connects you to countless others throughout history who have learned these same principles and used them to create lives of meaning, excellence, and sustainable prosperity that flows naturally from their commitment to creating value for others while pursuing their own highest potential for skill development and spiritual growth through meaningful contribution to endeavors that serve purposes larger than personal benefit alone, while reflecting the highest aspirations of human consciousness, working in harmony with cosmic principles of creation and transformation. The gentle crackling of the fire continues to provide the perfect backdrop for your peaceful rest as you drift into restorative sleep, knowing that you are connected to this timeless tradition of sacred work that transcends any particular historical period or technological context, because it reflects fundamental truths about spiritual development, creative expression, and the natural laws that govern the manifestation of consciousness through skilled work that serves both individual growth and cosmic evolution. Your dreams tonight will be filled with sacred threads of possibility, connection, and creative potential that weave themselves into your waking consciousness as new awareness of opportunities for developing excellence through sacred work. insights about the relationship between mastery and spiritual development, and confidence in your ability to create value and attract abundance through alignment with these eternal principles of conscious craftsmanship, spiritual service, and participation in the universal processes of creation that operate as reliably in your modern world as they did in Cale's ancient pottery workshop. Cale's story concludes with him walking slowly home through the quiet streets of ancient Ur, his heart full of gratitude for the profound teachings he has received, and his consciousness illuminated with understanding about how mastery serves not just personal development, but sacred purposes related to spiritual advancement and cosmic evolution. Knowing that tomorrow will bring new opportunities to apply these principles, while continuing to develop his capabilities in service to the sacred work of transformation that benefits others, while providing deep satisfaction that comes from meaningful work and spiritual growth through conscious participation in the universal creativity that flows through all beings who align themselves with transcendent purposes and cosmic principles. As you follow him into peaceful sleep, you carry with you the same understanding, the same possibilities, and the same connection to the eternal principles of sacred work that have guided excellent craftsmen throughout history and continue to operate in your modern world for those wise enough to recognize and apply them in their daily work and spiritual development. The summer evening completes its cycle as Cale falls asleep to the sound of gentle night breezes carrying the scents of clay and earth. His consciousness transformed by his encounter with master craftsmen who taught him that true excellence comes not from what you can achieve for yourself alone, but from what you can create in service to sacred purposes, not from how much recognition you can accumulate, but from how much value you can contribute to cosmic evolution, and not from competing against others for limited resources, but from developing capabilities that enable you to participate consciously in the universal processes of creation and transformation that reflect the infinite creativity and abundant nature of cosmic consciousness itself, expressing through individual awareness aligned with transcendent purposes and spiritual development. Your own peaceful sleep tonight carries forward Cale's transformation as you absorb these same principles into your subconscious mind, enabling you to wake tomorrow with expanded awareness of your connection to the sacred thread of mastery consciousness that links you to excellent craftsmen throughout history and across cultures who have discovered that true prosperity flows naturally to those who focus on creating exceptional value for others while developing their own unique talents and capabilities in service to sacred purposes that benefit not just themselves, but entire communities and cosmic evolution itself through the conscious application of skill, wisdom, and spiritual devotion to the eternal work of transformation that connects human consciousness to universal creativity and divine purpose.